be a big, premise for to reduce or just examples of alternating health outcomes by education. So yeah, year into grade school from being 13 years going on to 14 could possibly have an effect towards alternating disparities. This is a good start into diminishing educational disparities, or do you think it could be just another, or do you think it wouldn't work? Which one do you think? Well, it depends on where you look at it. It would be a good idea to expand education for the youth in America, and the goal would be for more children to disband from educational disparities. But what would matter most would be the student's ability to utilize the extra time that could be given and to understand why this policy is being implemented. And what I mean by that is, because some students might not like the fact that they expand the years of education from 13 to 14 in common grade schools. They might not just be really happy about that. However, like I said, it depends on where you look at it from a certain perspective, because I can also see where this would fall into a concept of a money issue in regards to the states, the schools in itself, and the counties. There would have to be some manages in financing for supplies, staffing, for the teachers and stuff like that. So there would have to be a new policy, but also too they would have to make some alterations in costs. Another thing that I can see would be that would be a cost would also affect the students. Um, and it could affect the students and then their families too, because that's another year where they would have to, spend money on supplies and, school clothes and stuff like that. So it does depend on how you look at it and where you see it. It could be a good start. I feel that they could take this as like an experiment for one school, or like for one level grade of school, where they take like a generation of students and try to see if they do 14 years before they go to college, and then do surveys and stuff like that, take statisticians to collect surveys and see where they can utilize, if they have utilized all their information that they have. And like I said, maybe even expanding health classes to get them into knowing the chronic illnesses that we have in this country, what could cause them, stuff like that too. So like I said, it does depend on where we start and how we see it. Now, since you work for the Department of Education, I wanted to get your opinion on this, about, do you believe that having these kind of discussions about educational disparities or health disparities in general, be do you think these discussions should be implemented in schools, like in high school level, talking and discussing about real life outcomes, like maybe in like a politics class? Do you think that that would be beneficial enough to maybe enhance the population so that they know about these issues that we have in this country? I would like to say yes, in terms of letting children have these certain discussions like us adults are having. But there is a part of education that guides some people into the concept of inequality. It just happens. Education is a very broad spectrum, so one might fall on one side and one might fall on the other. It's just in terms of people having the right to their opinion and such. Generally, discussions such as this could be very complicated to talk about, such as drives on sensitive topics, like race and ethnicity, standardizations of income or the classes of income and stuff like that. So there needs to be a level of open mindedness in these classrooms that students must realize this is just an open conversation that we're having, like you and I are. depending on the outcome, topics like these would make great topics for debate clubs and community centers to try and have to get more people and to get more students express their own opinions on this sort of topic in educational disparities. And it could possibly help to get others to advocate for reform. For a person who works in Department of Education, it would be pretty good to have these sort of discussions like in a debate sort of thing. Hopefully it's in a way that all the important facts are addressed without any offense taken to the students or uh, to the people who are discussing, um, and then that the information is 100% stated facts with backup references and such. And hopefully that this information isn't taken the wrong way. But it also depends on the students and what way they perceive it. But I do believe that having topics like this, because we didn't have topics like this when I was growing up, and I kind of wish that we do, because this society is growing and growing more and more diverse. So I do feel that these discussions really need to be explained at a younger age level. But like I said, there does need to be a set standard of open mindedness. People need to realize that, hey, people have a right to their own opinion because we do have a constitution of the First Amendment. So there also needs to be a set of guidelines in how these discussions are processed through the teachers, kind of like how college professors are. So there needs to be a level of or a guideline of how the teachers present this kind of topic. There also needs to be a guidelines for students and to understand what kind of topics we're talking about, and to be open-minded and don't take an emotional offense towards it, or don't take it as or not don't take it personally, but try and be understanding of what we're talking about. I think that would be a really good topic to talk about in high school level. Like I said before in the first question, that there needs to be the students need to develop a sort of brain skills to understand what this conversation is talking about, because this does deal with politics, this does deal with um, social interactions, this does deal with real life stuff. So these students need to understand what is happening in the world that's going on around us, and then they can take the information that we have in these discussions and then apply it to what's happening either in their homes, what's happening in their communities. It can be a really, really good thing to have. So yes, I feel like these conversations should be addressed in schools, but like I already stated before, that there has to be a set of guidelines that must follow. That way, there is no offense taken and stuff like that. So yeah. Yes, I understand what you're saying. I see that there does need to be a set of guidelines for these students and for the instructors to teach these sort of discussions, because information could get dismissed, or there could be there could be a set of misguided information that the students might have, and it's like I totally understand with what you're saying. Now, my final question that I have for you tonight kind of draws on this. I just have a basic question as to what, off the top of your head, what do you think could fix educational disparities as a start? We did talk about the 75 to 100% of students in some parts of our country that come from um, families of African American communities, Hispanic communities, and stuff like that, and they have their schools that they go to are get the same level of teachings as other communities do in other parts of the United States, where they have a disadvantage of teachings in math and sciences and stuff like that. So, what could you say off the top of your head that could fix these sort of problems? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Off the top of my head, one of the things that I can think about is having um, states come in and do some funding, financial support, because states are the education was based on the level or based separately on the states back in the 80s. And so one of the ways that I can see like that it can be a start is to for the states to make changes into their financing for schools in the counties and the communities, because right now teachers are underpaid. They take chunks out of their own checks to, get supplies for their students and stuff like that. And so I feel like there needs to be more when it comes to financing. And I feel like that the states can do something about that as a start, because if there's more income coming into the Department of Education in each state, this could change the outcome of the students have. Whereas like there is different topics, like when it comes to family problems or family complications when it comes to the students getting to school. But school in itself, I feel like, yes, financing could be a start to dismissing or to diminishing educational disparities. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for being with us tonight and giving your input into our questions that we had and discussing the educational disparities that are going on in this country. And I want to take, and the last thing I'm going to say is I hope for our sake, for our educational system, for our country, and for our communities, they're wonderful. We are going to take a short break, and once we come back, we are going to talk about what is going on in the world today with this coronavirus pandemic.